So today's class is really all about spinal health. We'll move the spine in every direction it was meant to move, as I typically do in my practices here. We'll talk about axial extension, a nice lengthening of the spine. I'll do some flexion, forward bending, extension, back bending, some lateral, side bending, and some twisting, moving the spine in every direction it was designed to move. And we'll also work the stabilizers around the spine as well. So hopefully when we leave here, we can stand a little taller, be a little bit more stable in ourselves. So that's the plan of action today. We're going to start with a strap. And I want you to find a really nice, comfortable seat. And you might sit up a little taller than you typically do here. Really make sure you can sit up nice and tall. I think you guys know what you're doing in here. And reach back, pull the flesh away from your sitting bones so you can really root the base of your pelvis down. And then find your strap. You might need to double it up. I often do this with a TheraBand. And you'll bring the strap around the very base of your ribs in the back, the very base of the ribs in the back, and the elbows alongside the ribs, not squeezing in for dear life, but alongside the ribs so the collarbones can broaden. And the palms can turn open. You might even open your palms if that feels comfortable here. So do notice if your elbows are widening, your shoulders are going to draw towards one another, or you're going to narrow your chest here. So as the elbows draw in a bit, keep the collarbones broad, melt your shoulder blades onto your back, and stack the head right over your heart. You might even close your eyes here if that feels comfortable and safe. Now if sitting up tall feels a little bit uncomfortable here in your hips, you might even set the strap down for a moment and support underneath the knees if that feels better. So we're not gripping or holding. Hi, welcome.
Thank you.
Tell me your name.
Lindsay.
Lindsay, welcome, Lindsay. No worries. Getting here is often the hardest part. You made it. So bringing the strap around the very base of the ribs. Elbows comfortably alongside the ribs. Once again, not squeezing in like a shelf, but comfortable enough that the collarbones can broaden. Shoulder blades can soften onto your back. And the head can stack right over your heart. And as we arrive here, bring your attention back down into the bowl of the pelvis. And really allow the sitting bones to anchor straight down into your support. And then draw that awareness up to those ribs, right? And notice if you're leaning forward here. So what would it feel like to soften the ribs back into the support of that strap? Keep the lengthening up to the crown of the head. And bring your attention to your natural breath. Now, if it feels constricted with your arms here, widen your elbows a little bit, broaden your collarbones a bit. Now, as we breathe here, what would it feel like to send your natural breath out into the strap? Maybe the strap widens as we stretch the ribs from the inside out. Even wrapping your awareness around to where the strap meets the ribs in the back base of the ribs. And can you send the breath out into the strap there? And creating this breath, breathing out circumferentially. Into the side ribs, back ribs, front ribs. Maybe there's a movement of the strap. Begin to deepen the breath a bit, finding a nice smooth inhale, a little pause at the top, and a nice smooth exhale. A little pause at the bottom. Again, smooth inhale. A little pause at the top. And a smooth exhale. Pause at the bottom. And take a couple more breaths just like that. And we'll keep the hands where they are. And as you next exhale, begin to flutter your eyes open, taking in your space. Find a little movement here. So as you inhale, widen your arms out. I like to open my fingers here. Hug your shoulder blades. And as you exhale, bring it back to that starting position. Good. Shoulders relaxed. Again, inhale, widen out. Think about drawing your shoulder blades towards one another. And exhale, bring it back in. 3 more times. Inhale, open, expand, collarbones broad, shoulder blades hug. Exhale, bring it back in. Again, inhale, open, expand. Exhale, bring it back in. And one more time. Inhale, open, expand, draw your shoulder blades towards one another. And exhale, bring it back in and pause. Okay. We'll move the strap to the side. Lean back, stretch out the legs, give the knees a little bit of a shake. And I want to release the neck a bit here, so I'm going to offer switching the crossing of your shins. If sitting differently feels better and you could sit a little bit taller, honor that. I often sit in a modified Virasana here. But take your time, re-anchor your sit bones. It matters, sets up the basis of your alignment. And rest your hands comfortably on your knees, your thighs, or your lap. You might even relax your hands down to the earth as support. And all I want you to do is imagine there is a chalkboard in front of you. And a moment with the tip of the nose, we're simply going to trace a dinner plate with the nose. So when you're ready, you might start moving down. And then with the tip of the nose tracing, we'll call it a salad plate. We'll start small. So allow that plane to be in front of you. Nice and slow here. And you're welcome to make the salad plate a little bit bigger. All I ask is that you do not drop your head back, or especially back into the sides. Right? So head circles can be really healthy, but they become not healthy when we drop our head back or back into the corners, which I will not do. Taking time here to put a little movement in the neck, the cervical spine. Circling the opposite way when you're ready, nice and slow. You might hear some little crinkly noises. It's so important to find movement, especially in the morning as we comb out the fascia, or sometimes call it the fuzz. The connective tissue that can get so bound up as we sleep. Take one more circle, nice and slow here. And then we'll draw the chin down towards the top of the chest. We'll take a pause here. Keep the collarbones broad, shoulder blades onto your back. And then from the base of your sitting bones, or from the base of your pelvis, very slowly inhale up to the crown of your head, gaze forward. Do one more thing here. Inhale, stretch your arms up. We'll turn your palms forward. And we'll do what I call an apple picking motion from side to side. I was told this is actually not how you pick apples. And the movement can be small, the movement can be bigger, your choice. But I want the intention to be reaching up more. So don't necessarily think of it as a side bend. It is, right? But think about really reaching up before you consider leaning over. Right? Creating more space in the intercostals, muscles in between the ribs. And go back and forth 1 or 2 more times. Good. And then when you feel even, reach both arms up. Turn your palms out. Take an inhale here. As you exhale, flex your palms or your arms all the way down. Good. We'll shift the shins to one side and make your way into Balasana, child's pose, please. Knees might be nice and wide. Feel free to stretch your legs out along the way. Sometimes stretching a leg back feels good. So please, please take your time to get here, moving, stretching, wiggling, sighing, yawning along the way. No rush at all. Good. And take this time to arrive here and notice what your spine is doing. So if the knees are wide, often creates a little more accessibility, especially at the beginning of our practice. Low back is lengthening, the spine is lengthening. Now if the knees are together, it rounds the back a bit more, it's different. One's not right or wrong, they're quite different. Last week we talked a lot about forward bending. So noticing here. Maybe the forehead gently rocks from side to side. And then stretching your arms forward. Stretch your arms forward. Gaze between your thumbs. Lengthen your spine longer. You might even come high into your fingertips, finger pads. We'll start with a twist. We'll thread your left arm underneath your right arm. Roll to your left cheek, your temple. That right arm can stay forward. Sometimes it feels good to drag your palm back, almost like a chaturanga arm. Press your palm down and allow the heart to shine open. Shoulder blades hugging. Breathe. Left hip is reaching back and down. Two more breaths. One more breath. And then very slowly unwind your arms. Gaze forward. Inhale, lengthen forward. You might come high into your finger pads. And this time we'll thread the right arm underneath the left arm. Roll to your left cheek, left temple. Left arm might stay forward, or you might drag the palm back. Press the palm down, hug your shoulder blades, roll your heart open. Breathe. Two more breaths. You always have permission to do less. With your next inhale, slowly unwind. Gaze between your thumbs. Inhale forward to that tabletop position. Wrists under your shoulders. Knees under your hips. Roll your spine nice and long. So the tendency here is to really drop the head down, right? So I like to gaze towards the top edge of my sticky mat. So the back of the skull is actually pressing up towards the ceiling. Roll your upper arm bones open. Slide your shoulder blades onto your back. And as you exhale, softly draw your navel towards your spine, not like you're at the beach, but just enough that your spine is long, core is engaged. We'll start with some cat-cows together. As you inhale, draw your heart forward. As you exhale, round the spine, press the floor away, hollow out the low belly. Again, inhale, draw your heart forward, a little pause at the top. Exhale, round the spine, hollow out the low belly. And once again, inhale forward, a little pause at the top. And exhale to round. We'll turn this into Chakravakasana. So this time, inhale forward to either a back bend or a long spine. I'll give you the choice. As you exhale, hips to heels, child's pose. And we'll play with that. So inhale, draw your heart forward. Maybe the spine stays long. Exhale, hips to heels, child's pose. And continuing at your rhythm. So you have the choice of coming into extension or a back bend, or to keep the spine long in the more traditional version, right? They're different. Just one or two more times. And the next time you reach the hips back, we'll stay. Child's pose. You might circle the wrists. And then stretching your arms forward, gaze forward, and inhale forward to that tabletop position, hands and knees once again. And this time, walk your hands one handprint forward and shift the shoulders right over the wrists so we're in a knees down plank. Press the floor away from you. Keep the shoulder blades softening onto your back. I like to flesh the buttocks draping towards the backs of your knees here. Now I want to give you the choice to stay here or curl your toes under and lift into plank pose, or high push-up. Yogi's choice. Now if you are joining me in plank, just for fun, lift your buttocks 1 inch higher. Roll your inner thighs up towards the ceiling, and then lengthen the flesh of your buttocks towards your heels. And as your heels reach back, you might even walk your toes in a little bit so your heels can reach longer. Grow the crown of the head forwarder and breathe. Beautiful pose for stabilizing back body and the front body. And 2 more breaths. You can always lower your knees down, totally cool. 1 more breath here if your knees are lifted. As you inhale, rock a little forward on your toes. In one piece, exhale all the way down to your belly. Elbows tack back, 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 back. All the way down you go. So planting your hands down alongside your chest or your floating ribs. Press your toenails down. Now, I want to talk about the placement of the legs. If your low back is feeling particularly sensitive today, widen your feet as wide as your sticky mat is wide. Totally cool. Toenails press down, pubic bone roots down. Broaden your collarbones and tack your elbows towards the back wall. Now, if your elbows don't tack back, widen your hands ever so slightly. Less is more here. Now, all we're going to do here is take a breath, easy breezy. And as you exhale, hover your head and neck just enough that your neck lines up with the rest of the spine. So we're not quite in our back bend yet. Back of the neck in line with the rest of the spine. Keep lifting the front of the shoulders to the backs of the shoulders. And as you next inhale, rise to your cobra, please. Crown of the head rises forward and up. An option to lift your hands up. Good. Notice if you're leading with your chin. So if that's you, draw your chin down ever so slightly. Lift the roof of your mouth up. Take a nice inhale. As you exhale, lower forward and down. We'll take some cobra pulses. As you inhale, lift your heart. Maybe you lift your hands. Exhale, forward and down. This time, inhale, lift and stay. Keep the collarbones broad, elbows tacking back. Maybe you plant your hands down. And use your hands to isometrically drag the heels back. I like to wiggle a little bit, grow longer in my side waist, just an option. And as you settle into your pose, keep the collarbones broad, shoulder blades drawing towards one another. Roof of the mouth lifting, 1 more inhale here. As you exhale, roll forward and all the way down you go. Plant your hands under your shoulders. Inhale, tabletop, please. Curl your toes under, reach your hips back towards your heels. We'll come into pranam, in pose of gratitude. Roll your palms open. You might open and close your fists a few times. And turn the palms turn the palms down once again, gaze forward. Inhale back to that tabletop position. We'll keep the toes curled under. Walk your hands 1 handprint forward. Shift the shoulders just behind the wrists, Good. Keep rolling your upper arm bones open so your heart is open here. With the toes curled under, take an inhale. As you exhale, hover your knees 2 inches off the mat. Slow motion, slide your hips up and back to dog. You might keep your knees generously bent here. And with your knees generously bent, widen your feet as wide as your sticky mat is wide. You might even widen your feet off of your sticky mat if that feels yummy. It might feel really good right now. So feet nice and wide as your mat at least. Bend your knees forward. Reach the tops of your thigh bones up and back like you're sitting on the back top corner of the room without walking your hands back. That's cheating. I want to talk about a nice long spine here. To me, it's the most important part of downward facing dog. So remember where that strap met the back ribs. So send some breath there. Widen your shoulder blades. Keep the upper arm bones wrapping open. But at the same time, hug your forearms towards one another. Root down in your finger pads, especially that index finger and thumb. You might inhale high into your toes. As you exhale, reach your heels back and down. You might do that 1 or 2 more times. You might bend your knees, sliding your sitting bones up and down a little bit, like you're painting the back wall with your sitting bones. Just an option. So one more breath here. And then soften the knees. Walk your feet 1 foot forward until your heels touch down. Bend your knees more and walk your hands all the way back to meet your feet. Walk your hands all the way back to meet the feet. I'll meet you in a forward fold or a ragdoll shape. You might catch hold of opposite elbows here. So bending the knees enough that the spine can really traction down. So bend the knees a lot. Any pulling in your low back, bend the knees more. Or widen your stance. Good. Unwind your arms. I want to give the option to heel toe your feet 1 heel toe closer. Maybe they're about hip bone distance or a little outer hip bone distance. I'll start there. Catch hold of opposite elbows from before. We'll bake here. Maybe the torso is glued to the thighs. The spine is lengthening down. Knees are bending a little bit or a lot of it. And then unwinding your arms. Slide your hands up to your shins or your thighs. As you inhale, halfway rise, spine parallel to the floor. So bending your knees enough that your spine can really lengthen long. And we're using our finger pads on the shins or the thighs so that the finger pads press into the legs, the shoulder blades slide onto the back. And then just for fun, gaze 2 inches forward. Gaze 2 inches forward and imagine there was a string from your gazing point to your sternum bone, the top of your chest. And as you inhale, that sternum bones or the string is going to lengthen your sternum bone longer. Broaden your collarbones and then draw the chin down ever so slightly so the back of the skull can lengthen up. Good. Walk your hands up to your hips, please. Hug your shoulder blades towards one another. With a long spine, inhale, rise all the way up. Exhale, relax your arms all the way down. Good, great. Take a slow walk forward to the top of your sticky mat, finding Tadasana. And I'm going to recommend having a couple blocks at the top of your mat as well. You may or may not need them, but they're there in case you do. So at the top of our mat, we'll find Tadasana. Now, I like the feet hip bone distance apart. If you practice big toes together and you feel anchored and grounded that way, perfectly cool. Wherever you are, lift up your toes, spread them wide. Root down in the mound of the big toe, the first metatarsal. Root down in the mound of the pinky toe, fifth metatarsal. Root down in the center of your heels. And allow the arches of your feet to softly lift. And the toes to relax all the way down and soften. Good. Bring your attention up to your pelvis. And I want you to bring one hand to your low belly, one hand to your sacrum, that triangular plate at the base of your spine. Now, I want you to imagine the bowl of your pelvis was a bowl of soup, right? So I don't want you to spill the soup. So notice if you're curling your tailbone under, spilling the soup back, right? Or if you're sticking your buttocks out, spilling the soup forward. So what would it feel like to find a nice neutral soup bowl? Never said that. Soup sounds good right now. It's so cold outside. So your pelvis is nice and neutral here. The flesh of the buttocks is draping towards your heels. There's support in your low belly. We'll unwind the arms. And if the knees are generously bent, telescoping the legs up into the bowl of the pelvis without tipping that soup bowl. So feel free to soften the knees, do keep them micro bent. And then once again, notice, can you send the breath back to those back ribs all the way around, stacking the cage of the ribs right over the bowl of the pelvis. And usually the head will stack right over your heart when you do this. So when the head is aligned, it might even feel lighter, right? When we start to lean the head forward like we often do into a computer screen, each degree forward puts 10 more pounds of weight on the neck, right? So keeping the head nice and aligned here. Good. So from here, find your breath. Bring your palms together at your heart. Option to close your eyes or find a soft downward gaze down the bridge of your nose. And take this moment to plant your heartfelt intention or dedication for your practice or out into the world. Standing nice and tall in this light-hearted shape. When you're ready, flutter your eyes to open. We'll start with that same movement as earlier. So as you inhale, widen your arms out. The intention today is to draw your shoulder blades towards one another. Exhale, bring it back in. Make sure your cell phones are off. Might be outside. Again, inhale, open, expand. A little pause at the top. Good. Exhale, bring it back in. A little pause at the bottom. And one more time, inhale, open, expand, collarbones broad, shoulder blades draw towards one another. Exhale, bring it back in. Half sun salutations. This time, inhale, stretch your arms out, maybe all the way up, option to look up. As you exhale, reach out, bend your knees, hinge forward all the way down to the floor or blocks. As you inhale, halfway rise, spine is long, maybe the knees are bent. Exhale, bow in. Maybe the knees stay bent. Reverse swan dive, inhale all the way up. The legs are the last thing to straighten. Exhale, hands meet your heart, samastitihi. We'll do that one more time. Inhale, open, expand. Only in line with your torso. Exhale, bring it back to your heart. This time, inhale, stretch your arms around, down and up. Maybe the palms press if the shoulders aren't earrings. As you exhale, swan dive forward, hands to the floor or blocks. As you inhale, halfway rise. As you exhale, bow in all the way down. Reverse swan dive, inhale all the way up, stretch up, reach up, look up. Exhale, hands to your heart, samastitihi. Let's add on. Inhale, open, expand, hug your shoulder blades towards one another. As you exhale, bring it back to your heart. As you inhale, stretch your arms up. Pausing at the top. As you exhale, swan dive forward, hands to the blocks, to the floor, all the way down you go. This time, inhale, halfway rise and stay. Halfway rise and stay, hands either on the floor or I brought my hands to blocks just outside of my feet. Keep the spine nice and long. Shift the weight into your right foot, come onto the toes of your left foot, please. And slow motion, step your left leg way back into a runner's lunge. Runner's lunge, all the way down to the floor. So toes come all the way down to the floor, so you're in a runner's lunge, so step that left foot all the way down. There you go. Now, I want to talk about the shoulders here. I'm using blocks because when I touch my hands down, my shoulders round off my back, right? So if that's you, you might elevate your hands to blocks a little bit or a lot of bit. You might even come high to fingertips. We basically want this heart space nice and open here. So as we breathe here, lengthen your sternum bone forward. Imagine you could hug your inner thighs together. Not imagine, you can hug your inner thighs together. And as your left heel reaches towards the back of the room, the front knee is lunging towards the front of the room. But we're going to turn this into a twist. So the left hand will plant on the edge of the mat. Now if you want a little more space, you might even widen your hand off the mat. I like a little space there. And you'll bring your right hand to your right hip. Right hip is tacking towards the back wall. We'll take an inhale together. And as you exhale, begin to turn your bottom ribs towards your top ribs. Pause there. Keep hugging your inner thighs together. Find a little cobra in your upper back. And maybe, just maybe, that right arm reaches to the sky. It doesn't have to. Good. Now, as the collarbones broaden here, what would it feel like to draw your shoulder blades a bit towards one another? Good. To energize the pose, we typically say gaze at your top hand thumb. But if it bothers your neck, you might roll your gaze down. Good. One more breath here. Really, really nice. We'll take an inhale here. As you exhale, lower your right hand down. Square your shoulders, square your hips. And we'll lower that back knee down. So please, please pad the knee if you need to. We'll take a counter stretch. Take an inhale here. Lengthen your spine. Keep your spine long. As you exhale, draw the hips back into Ardha Hanumanasana, half splits. So I highly, highly, highly recommend using blocks. Once again, this is your practice. Do what feels right in your body. But I want to keep the spine nice and long here, so use both blocks. Use both blocks. Good. So we're not leaning into one hip over the other. So keep your spine nice and long here. Roll your inner thighs back and apart. And then if you want more sensation, walk your hands or blocks forward. You can even walk them forward, coming more into a dog shape here if you like. Maybe not right for me right now. But keep the spine nice and long. That outer right hip is wrapping down towards your sticky mat and flexing the foot actively. Good. So sometimes that right hip or that right side waist likes to shorten here. So that outer right hip rolling down. You might even think about reaching your right buttocks towards the back of the room and your outer left hip towards the front of the room. One more breath. Good. And then slowly re-bend your front knee. Pick up your back knee. You might even hop your back foot in a little bit if it's really far. Walk your blocks about 12 inches forward, gaze between your hands. Through a mini standing splits, inhale, step forward, left leg will hover. Step all the way forward to the top of the mat, forward fold. This time, inhale, halfway rise. Pausing here, so bending the knees enough that your spine can lengthen. And if you have those blocks, once again, we'll walk the blocks back so they're framing the feet. Slide your shoulder blades onto your back, lengthen the back of the neck. This time we'll shift the weight into your left foot, come onto the toes of your right foot. Slow motion, pick up your right foot, step it way back into a runner's lunge. Toes all the way to the floor. Good. From here, scissor your inner thighs together. Slide your shoulder blades onto your back. We'll plant your right hand to the edge of the mat, maybe off of the mat for a little more space. And we'll bring your left hand to your left hip. Great. Tap your left hip back as that front knee lunges forward. Let's take an inhale. And as you exhale, begin to roll your bottom ribs towards your top ribs. Hug your inner thighs together. Find a little cobra in your upper back. And then maybe, just maybe, that left arm reaches to the sky. It doesn't have to. Maybe you fire up that back leg a little more. I like to lift the thigh bone a little higher and then reach the heel longer. Corners of the neck slide back so the neck's in line with the rest of the spine. One more full breath. As your next exhale, plant your left hand all the way down, square your shoulders, square your hips. Very slowly, mindfully, lower your right knee down. Please, please pad the knee if you need to. Take an inhale to lengthen your spine. And as you exhale, we'll draw the hips back into Ardha Hanumanasana. So feel free to soften the knee, or I didn't say this on the first side, you might even bend and straighten, not lock. But do keep the spine nice and long since that is our focus right now. Roll your inner thighs back and apart to amp up the stretch a little bit. And for more sensation, walk your hands or blocks forward, but keep your spine long. More sensation isn't better. I'm going to back out a little bit. Breathe. That outer left hip is wrapping down and back. Outer right hip is wrapping forward. One more breath. Say good morning, hamstrings. And then very slowly begin to re-bend your front knee. And pick up your back knee, pause. You might hop your back foot in a little bit. Walk your hands or blocks about 12 inches forward. Through a mini standing splits, inhale, right leg hovers, and then forward fold. Soften your knees. You might catch hold of opposite elbows here. We'll call this resting. Breathe. And then unwinding your arms, glue your torso or glue your abdomen to your thigh bones. Glue your abdomen to your thighs and slow motion begin to straighten your legs. See how this feels in your low back. Any pulling, please, please, please rebend the knees. And then once again, walk your hands up to your shins or thighs. Inhale, halfway rise. As you exhale, fold, step back, downward facing dog, please. Downward facing dog. We'll lower the knees down, take a child's pose. Good. I'm going to wake up the side body a bit more here. So with your arms stretching forward, gaze forward between your hands, and inhale forward to a tabletop position once again. Let's start with the left leg. So we'll slide your left leg back, curl the toes under. Curl the toes under, listen carefully. Begin to pivot to the inseam of that left foot. You might stay on the inseam, or you might plant the foot all the way down. I like to pivot my right heel behind my right knee. And that right hand is 90 degrees from the shoulder, so about an inch or two in front of the shoulder here. And maybe, just maybe, that left arm reaches to the sky. Now, if you have shorter arms like I do, you might even bring your bottom hand to a block. If your arms are tired, you could bring your top hand to your hip. Totally cool. And can you find Tadasana from that left foot all the way to the crown of your head? So the flesh of the buttocks is lengthening towards your left heel. And then just for fun, come back to the big toe side of the foot or flex the foot so you're just on that big toe side. Broaden your collarbones. Hug your shoulder blades towards one another. Maybe the corners of the neck lean back. Option to stay here or lift that left leg parallel to the floor. Good. Flex the foot actively. You should see just the tips of the toes. You might reach up more. Good. One more inhale. As you exhale, set the foot down. Set your hands down, knees down, tabletop position. And take a round or two of cat-cow. Inhale, draw your heart forward. Exhale, round. This time, inhale to a nice long spine. Exhale, reach your hips back to child's pose. Pause. Slide your hands back and round yourself up to watch just for a moment. So I just want to talk about that for a moment. I'm staying mostly forward for the people at home as well. But sometimes it's tricky to see what I'm doing, so I just want to talk about it a bit here. So we'll take the other side in a moment. So we'll start by sliding that right leg back. All right. We'll roll to the inseam of the foot. I gave you the option to stay here, or I like to plant the foot down. Now when I roll to the inseam, I'm actually heel to arch alignment like I would in a warrior two, right, or a side angle pose. I'm going to plant my foot down, and I'm going to try to blindfold this block, move my knee back. So we want this left hand 90 degrees from the shoulder, so I often move it about an inch, sometimes 2 inches forward, really depends on the length of your arm. This hand can find your hip. You roll your shoulder open. Now I came a little bit higher to my finger pads because my short arms, right? And then maybe that arm reaches up. Now I want to show what I was seeing a little bit here. I was seeing a little bit of this, right? I'm exaggerating. But I want the flesh, the buttocks lengthening towards your right heel. Now I'm coming back to the big toe side. So there's Tadasana. I'm going to elevate my bottom hand. So there's Tadasana from this right leg all the way up to the crown of the head, right? Reach up more. I'm not narrowing my chest. I'm widening my collarbones, hugging my shoulder blades towards one another. And then maybe that right leg lifts. Doesn't have to. I can actually move this hand forward just a little bit here. So once again, we find this Tadasana. Maybe the gaze lifts. Doesn't have to. We inhale more. We exhale, lower the foot down. We come back. We'll move through some cat-cows. All right? So let's try it. So I'll meet you in that tabletop position. Please take your time. So from a tabletop position, we'll stretch your right leg back, right leg back. I'm gonna watch, so curl the toes under. And begin to pivot to the inseam of that foot. So once again, make sure your left toes line up with the inner arch of the foot. And then maybe, just maybe, the left foot hides behind the knee. Plant your left hand down an inch or two in front of the shoulder, 90 degrees, and inhale that right arm to the sky. So once again, you might bring your bottom hand to a block. Now, what would it feel like to lengthen the flesh of your buttocks towards your right heel? That might mean leaning back as if into that strap at the base of your ribs. Reach up more. And then peel to the big toe side of the foot, please. You might stay right there. Or inhale that leg parallel to your mat. Or inhale that leg parallel to the mat. Just an option. So notice if your torso is moving forward. Notice if your torso is moving forward, right? So if that's you, can you bring your torso in line with that extended leg? Maybe the leg is lifted, doesn't have to. Flex the foot, you should be able to see the tips of the toes. One more breath, neck is in line with the rest of the spine. And as you exhale, set the foot down, arms down, tabletop position, please. Let's take some cat-cows. Inhale, draw your heart forward. Exhale, round. Do that one or two more times. Good. And this time, inhale, heart forward. And we'll exhale, sit back to child's pose. Keep the arms forward. And this time, we'll bring the palms all the way together. And begin to bend your elbows so your fingertips face the ceiling. Bend your elbows so your fingertips face the ceiling. Roll your upper arm bones open, soften your heart. And as we breathe here, I want to give the option to bring your hands between your shoulder blades. You can always separate your hands here as well, totally cool. Breathe. Walking your elbows in to frame the sides of your face. You might even walk your elbow joints forward like little crab claws. Good. And then unwinding your arms. We'll stay low. Snake your way onto your belly. All around your belly, and we'll start by stacking your hands under your forehead. If you prefer, I think last week we folded a blanket under the forehead here as well. If you like the support of a blanket, I want to offer that. Otherwise, for now, we'll use our hands to stack under the forehead. Now, same choices as before. If your low back is feeling sensitive, you might widen your feet as wide as your sticky mat is wide. But I want to give the option here to keep the legs either hip bone distance apart, or I'm actually going to bring my legs all the way together like I have one long tail here. We're not standing on them, we're not weight bearing on them. So you get to choose. Press your toenails down into the mat like you could destroy a pedicure. Root your pubic bone down. And this time we'll bring the arms down alongside the body. Bring the arms down alongside the body, a comfortable distance away from the body. We'll roll the palms in towards the body. Roll the palms in so the thumbs are touching the mat, and bring all of your other fingers together like little fin hands, right? So just your thumbs are touching the mat. Bring your attention up to your collarbones. Broaden your collarbones. Lift the fronts of the shoulders to the backs of the shoulders. And simply hover your head and neck so your neck lines up with the rest of your spine here. Keep the low body anchored. And with your next inhale, upper body lifts, forehead, upper chest, upper back. Keep hugging your shoulder blades towards one another. And maybe the arms lift up. Imagine you could squeeze a beach ball between your palms. If you want to interlace, be my guest. Otherwise, squeeze a beach ball between your palms. Lift your upper arm bones up more. Forearms up more, and reach the beach ball back, in the back of the heart, front, breathe. Imagine I was pressing down in your calves. Take one more inhale when you're ready. As you exhale, lower and rest, head to one cheek. You can wag your hips a bit from side to side. Good. And then I'll give the option to add on. We'll start the same way. So bringing your forehead down. Arms down alongside the body. Good. So you want them a comfortable distance away so the ribs can expand out, so we're not squeezing the rib cage, right? Roll your palms in. So just the thumbs are touching the mat. Other fingers draw together like little fins. Press your toenails down, please. Root your pubic bone down, please. As the collarbones broaden, lift the fronts of the shoulders to the backs of the shoulders. Pause. And once again, just hover your head and neck, not just, but hover your head and neck so your neck lines up with the rest of the spine. It's powerful. We're strengthening here. And with your next inhale, upper body lifts. Forehead, upper chest, upper back. Maybe the arms lift. Option to interlace. But once again, keep the collarbones broadening, shoulder blades hugging. Grow your legs so long that maybe the legs lift. And instead of thinking about lifting up, think about growing longer and then maybe lift. Finding as much length through our spine. Breathe. When you're done, exhale, lower all the way down, other cheek, rest. Very, very nice. You might wag your hips. You might bend your knees and wag your shins from side to side. And then relaxing your lower legs down. Plant your hands right under your shoulders. And slow motion press back to a wide-kneed child's pose, please. Wide-kneed child's pose. And rest there. Good. So my teacher used to always say back bending is kind of like untying a bow. You can untie one side, right? Find length there. Or you can untie both sides and find as much length as possible, right? Creating more space, more vitality. Shumnanadi, our spinal cord, really our life force. Slide your hands back towards your knees, please, and slowly roll yourself up to sit. Good. So I want to release the upper back just a little more here. So as we do that, I'm going to recommend a modified Virasana. You might know it's one of my favorite ways to sit. So taking a block between your heels, I like it lengthwise so that your sitting bones have a point of stability here. They're not wobbling to one side or the other. If you prefer to sit on your heels in more of a hero shape or take another seat, perfectly cool. I want your knees absolutely comfortable here. If they're not, we might slide a blanket behind the backs of the knees for space. And make sure you can sit up nice and tall here. I will meet you here. Hands stacking. Maybe the eyes are closing. So taking all the time you need. Or noticing if the seat doesn't serve you. So if that's you, we change it. Never serving the pose, but allowing it to serve us. So sitting up nice and tall, once again, imagine that strap around the base of the ribs leaning back enough that as you root down, the crown of the head can rise. And we'll release your hands down to the earth. If they don't touch the earth, it's okay. You can even bring blocks up under your hands. They won't be here too long. But notice, you can even bring them on your lap if you prefer. Keep the collarbones broad. Good. Wiggle your fingers, reach your arms out to the sides. Wiggle your fingers, reach your arms out to the sides. Good. And relax your hands. All we're going to do is turn the palms up and turn the palms down, almost like you're turning a knob here. So we'll do this a couple times. And then roll your palms open, melt your shoulder blades, but allow your collarbones to widen almost out into your middle finger. Head right over your heart. We'll turn the palms forward, take an inhale, right arm on top, give yourself a hug. Ah, good hug. This feels so good today. You might crawl your fingers closer towards one another. You might even give yourself a little massage here. And I want to give the choice to stay right here. So many beautiful things happen when we give ourselves a massage. So I want to give you the option to stay here or to join me in eagle arms, sitting up a little bit taller, lifting your bottom forearm up, locking your top elbow in place, lifting your top forearm. Bring it forward, make a little U-turn. Maybe you find the palm, maybe you find the hand, or hug your elbows in. If you want help to put a strap between your thumbs, I can help you there, or simply hug in here. Great. So see what it feels like to scoop your elbows in line with your shoulders. What would it feel like to stack your head in line with your heart? And think about the sternum bone, that area that is peeking through your shoulders and your elbows. And as you inhale, lift and lengthen it up to the crown of your head, sitting up nice and tall here. Breathe. Smoothly, deeply, not forcefully. And maybe you stay here. Or what would it feel like to scoop your elbows up today, gazing between your wrists, and maybe the forearms move a little bit forward. Breathe. If this feels too much, come back to where we were. Jaw stays soft. Hug your elbows. Allow the back of your heart to lift. One more breath. As you exhale, slowly lower your elbows down in line with the shoulders. Unwind your arms, reach your arms out. Good. Relax your arms down. We'll take some nice slow shoulder circles. So inhale, lift one shoulder up and draw it back and down. And we'll continue nice and easy. You might imagine you're moving through molasses. Good. And then reversing the circles. I like to lead with the elbows. I like to lead with the elbows, almost like you're swimming here. And take one more circle in each direction. And then when you're ready, lift both shoulders up, back, and onto your back. Good. Bring your fingertips down, so we'll turn the palms in for now. Once again, you might bring your hands to blocks, or bring your hands even to your heels if that feels better. Broaden your collarbone, sit up nice and tall. We'll take the second side, so wiggle your fingers, reach your arms out to the sides once again. Good. Roll your palms open, melt your shoulder blades. Roll your palms forward, take an inhale here, left arm on top, give yourself a hug. You might crawl your fingers closer towards one another, you might wiggle in, you might even relax your head and neck here, see how that feels. Once again, you have the choice to stay here or sit up a little bit taller. Lift your bottom forearm up, and top forearm up. Bring it forward, make a little U-turn for the palm or the back of the hand. Good. Elbows in line with your shoulders. If your shoulders are earrings, melt your shoulder blades onto your back. Hug your elbows, hug the backs of your hands or forearms, or if you want a strap, please wiggle your fingers, let me know. Good. Head is right over your heart. And once again, lift and lengthen from your heart to the crown of the head, rise taller. Option to stay. Or for today, begin to scoop your elbows up, gaze between your wrists, and maybe, just maybe, the forearms move forward. And breathe. Jaws relaxed. Breathing smoothly, deeply. Take one more inhale here. And as you exhale, lower your elbows down. Slowly unwind your arms, reach them out, and lower them all the way down. Good. Let's take an inhale through your nose, please. And sigh it out. Good. Listen carefully. Inhale, hold the breath. Squeeze your fist, squeeze your face, squeeze your toes. Exhale, lion's breath. Tongue out, eyes wide. Eyes are traditionally up here. We'll do that again. Inhale, lift, squeeze, 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 squeeze. Lion's breath. Good. And one more time. Inhale, retain the breath. Squeeze, 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 squeeze. Lion's breath. Good. We'll take a resting breath. We'll come back to where we started, stacking your hands in your lap. You might close your eyes, sit up nice and tall here. Breathe. Good. When you're ready, very slowly, we'll blink eyes open. We'll move the block to the side of your mat and make your way onto your back, please. Take your time. No rush at all. No rush at all. There's no one way to do anything. I will meet you lying all the way back. We'll do a little, perhaps a little hip opening. I'll give some options. There's no one way to do anything. Once you arrive all the way back, might feel really nice to hug your knees in towards your chest. You might rock a little bit from side to side. And then we'll keep the right knee hugging in. Set your left foot flat on the floor. Right knee hugging in, left foot flat on the floor. And as you inhale, reach your right leg up to the sky a little bit or a lot of it. You get to choose. Flex your foot and ankle. And then we'll begin to cross that flexed foot off the edge of your left thigh, setting up for a figure 4, or thread the eye of the needle so your left knee is still bent here. Take an inhale. And as you exhale, consider hugging your left thigh in, reaching between the thighs with your right hand and around that left thigh with your left hand. Now, a couple choices here. We take this pose all the time, right? So if you want to get a little more into your outer right hip, you might invite that left thigh in. You're even welcome to catch the shin or the outer foot if you like. Maybe that right forearm, right elbow very softly presses forward without tipping or rocking your pelvis. You can have too much of a good thing. So that is option A. If you'd like to work a little more on releasing your left low back, then very slowly inhale, press your left thigh forward into your hands so your kneecap is basically right over your left hip. Flex your left foot and ankle, please, and bring your left lower leg or your shin parallel to the floor, like it's on a chair seat. You might even imagine you could press your left foot forward into a pedal, but at the same time, soften your low back and breathe. So be here 10 more breath cycles. You get to choose. So if the arms are feeling fatigued, set the foot down or wave me over. I'll do a good impression of a wall. You can always set a block under your left foot as well. But we're not just hovering the legs in space if that's you. We are using the arms as gentle resistance. You can always use a strap here as well to the back of the thigh. Good. I'm beginning to find nice long exhales. You might even play with reaching your left foot up towards the ceiling. Just an option, wherever you are. Two more breaths. And then slowly rebending your left knee. We'll set that left foot down. Unwind your right leg, set your right foot down, pause. And go right to the second side. So exhale, hug your left knee all the way in. Give it a nice hug, a good squeeze. Flex your left foot and ankle and breathe your left leg up to the sky. And slowly begin to cross that flexed left foot off the edge of your right thigh, setting up for a figure 4 shape. You might stay here, or as you exhale, hug that right thigh in, reaching between the thighs with your left hand, around that thigh with your right hand. You might catch the shin or the foot. So once again, to get into left outer hip, we're drawing that thigh in line with your right mid collarbone. Maybe that left elbow, forearm gently pressing forward. But to release right low back a bit more, we'll inhale the thigh, that right thigh forward. Bring your right shin and ankle parallel to your mat. And imagine you could press your right foot forward as if into a pedal. And if that's you, really wherever you are, soften your low back and breathe. Good. If your arms are fatigued, your shoulders are fatigued, you might widen your hands or slide a strap around the leg or wave me over. And breathe. Sometimes I like to set my right foot right on a wall. Really yummy. You have the option to reach your right foot and ankle towards the ceiling. Nice long exhales. And then slowly begin to rebend your right knee. If that's you, we'll set that right foot down. Unwind your left leg. And hug both knees all the way in, please. You might rock a little bit from side to side. And let's keep the right knee hugging in. Slide the left leg all the way to the top of the mat for 5 breaths. So the right knee is hugging in, that left leg is active, all 5 toes flexing to the sky. Heel is rooting back. And the front of your left thigh is dissolving back. Breathe. And shoulders soft. And I want to give the option to turn this into a twist. So reach your right arm out to the right. I like to bump my hips a little bit to the right. And as I exhale, I bring that right knee a little bit or all the way across the body. Maybe there's support, a block or two waiting for you. That right palm can roll open. Maybe it slides diagonally back towards the back right corner of the room. That is your heart line. 5 breaths. Allow your right wrist to be heavy. If it's hovering, you might bend your right elbow and drape it on the ribs. Good. Never forcing or pushing. Maybe your right inner foot is resting on the inner thigh. Good. One more breath. Nice inhale. Stay as you exhale, navel to spine. Slow and controlled, inhale, come on up. Set the feet down, reset, and hug your knees all the way to the chest. You might rock a little bit from side to side. And this time we'll keep the left knee in, slide your right leg to the top of your mat. Fire up that right leg, flex all 5 toes up towards the ceiling. Heel is back, thigh bone back. Side waist is lengthening. Back to the shoulders are softening. And the head is heavy. Option to stay here or reach your left arm to the left. I like to bump my hips a little bit over to the left. And as I exhale, the knee draws a little bit or all the way across to the floor or support. Maybe that left arm slides diagonally back. Once again, that is your heart line. Breathe. I like to rest the inside of my left foot on my right inner thigh. Right hand drapes on the ribs if that feels better. One more breath, nice inhale. Stay as you exhale, navel to spine. Slow and controlled inhale, come on up. Reset. And hug your knees all the way in. Give them a good hug, a good squeeze. If it feels good, as you exhale, you might curl your nose towards your knees, curl up into a tight little ball, make yourself as compact as possible. And then relax your head all the way back. Stretching out to final relaxation, final Shavasana. So please, please take your time. If there's any pulling in your low back, bend your knees, and we'll either roll a blanket or set a bolster underneath the backs of your knees. I'm happy to do that for you if you'd like help. So if you would like help, please wave me over. I'm just trying not to fling a bolster over your body. Good. Now traditionally, the arms are relaxing down alongside the body. They don't have to. They are, palms roll open. A comfortable distance away from the body. A comfortable distance away from the body. And if you have any leftover tension, tightness, anything at all, take a smooth inhale, draw it up. And out the mouth, let it go. You might do that one more time. So as we rest here in Shavasana, I'm going to read a story today by Leroy Little Bear. He says, 2 scientists traveled halfway around the world to ask a Hindu sage what he thought about their theories. When they arrived, he kindly brought them into his garden and poured them tea. Though the 2 small cups were full, the sage kept pouring. Tea kept overflowing, and the scientists politely but awkwardly said, "Your Holiness, the cups can hold no more." The sage stopped pouring and said, "Your minds are like the cups. You know too much. Empty your minds and come back. Then we'll talk." Deepening the breath. Wiggling fingers and toes. Circling wrists and ankles. And stretching and yawning. When you feel ready, bending your knees, and rolling to rest on a side of your choosing, using your upper arm as a pillow, 2 or 3 breaths. And pressing yourself all the way up to a comfortable, bless you, tall seat. Maybe the eyes stay closed. And as we arrive back in this shape that we started, noticing your spine, can you sit taller? Bring the palms together at your heart. Reconnecting to your intention or dedication. And let's sing the sound of Om one time together. First, a breath. Take a nice inhale. And let it go. Inhale. Bowing your thinking mind to your heart, honoring that light within, allowing that light to shine brightly for you and everyone you choose to surround yourself with today and the rest of your week. Lifting your chin, and together we say, Namaste.